Hey there, it's Clay with modernlove.life, and in this video we're going to be talking about, is your ex giving you false intimacy? We're going to be talking about what false intimacy is, if your ex might be giving you false intimacy, and more importantly, what you can do about it. So let's go ahead and get started here. Now, what exactly is false intimacy? Well, in order to get this clear, we need to look at what is real intimacy, and I'm not talking about, physical intimacy here. Although, that definitely can come from this, but I'm talking more about emotional intimacy. And emotional intimacy is when we are able to openly and honestly talk about our feelings, our emotions, our experiences, our thoughts, etc., in a way that's vulnerable and real and authentic. Whereas false intimacy is really when we're just simply talking about things that are sort of external to us. And we can talk about these sorts of things in a very engaged and animated sort of way, kind of like how I'm having this conversation with you about false intimacy. I'm not really offering anything specific about my thoughts and feelings and emotions, at least not right now, but I am talking to you passionately and engaged about the topic of false intimacy. And, we see this many, many, many times with our clients. They are talking with their ex or they're talking with someone about, maybe some sort of current event that's going on or, something that's happening in their life or some friend that they ran into while they were out and about doing things or whatever the case might be. And them and their ex or them and their partner might get very involved in this conversation. Oh, tell me more about that. What was this like? And all of that. But there's no real depth to it. You don't leave the interaction feeling like you know the other person more, like you're connected to that person in a better way, either because maybe you weren't opening up and showing your emotional self authentically, or they were not opening up and showing their emotional self authentically. So this is kind of like what false intimacy would be. Examples of this, might be involving, talking about certain TV shows. You can talk about like, oh, did you see this one episode where this thing happened, or that character, they knocked him off or whatever, or there's this like plot twist at the end of that season. Okay, great. You're having an engaged conversation, but you're not really making it about something genuine related to you or about your partner. Same can be said when it comes to things like talking about sports or talking about, politics or talking about Bitcoin or talking about anything, right? We can talk about all of these sorts of things in a way that might be very engaging and animated, but until we actually start to bring our own experience into the conversation, it's really just a sort of false intimacy, okay? That's not to say that these conversations are necessarily bad. I think that it can be helpful to have these kinds of conversations, especially when you're talking about something useful, like, again, kind of like how I'm doing right now. But what we want to do is we want to actually be able to have emotional depth in our relationships and in our interactions as well, too. So what we want to do is to actually start to move the conversation in a more emotional direction, towards more transparency, towards more openness, towards more honesty, etc. So how exactly do you do that? Well, one way that you can do it is by hitting that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Well, that probably might not help to actually create more emotional intimacy. It probably won't hurt. But in all seriousness, though, how do you actually do this? Okay, so we all do have an emotional experience about things, but we often keep that kind of guarded and that safe and that kind of behind either a wall or a set of armor or something like that. Obviously, we don't want to do this if we're going to have an emotional connection. The thing is that you probably feel a little bit unsafe being vulnerable and opening up to them. They probably feel a little bit unsafe opening up and being vulnerable to you. So it's kind of like the two of you are just sort of waiting for the other one to make the first move. Now, generally, this is not a great strategy for most things in life. So what you want to do is you want to actually start by being open and honest. Obviously, yourself. That can be a very good way to do it. And what you can also then do is sort of ask a genuine question about your partner's experience. Something like, what was that like for you? How did that make you feel? Tell me more about that, etc. And then that can kind of open the door for having a more engaging emotional conversation. This is what we teach in our X Solution Program course. If you want to learn more about that, just go to modernlove.life/ESP for X Solution Program. That's modernlove.life/ESP. If you want to sign up, there it is. But, I'm not going to twist your arm to sign up if you don't want to. But yeah, that's something that we do talk about when it comes to emotional connection. ESP is really all about deepening that emotional connection with your ex, understanding their emotional world, etc. But you really want to have these kinds of connections because sure, we can have these interesting intellectual conversations about, TV or cinema or art or emotional bonding like we're doing right now or anything else. But unless we actually bring ourselves to the conversation or unless something personal comes from the conversation, there's very often going to be this strange moment where the two of you or at least maybe your partner or maybe you even start to feel like, why are we even talking? Like, why are we even talking about this? Why do we keep talking about sports all the time? Like, what's the point of this? Why do we keep talking about this TV show? Why do we keep talking about, whatever the case might be? And so, it's okay to have these conversations, but we definitely want to make sure that we're dipping into that emotional level of connection from time to time and really nurturing that emotional side of us so that we can actually see one another. We can give our partner an opportunity to see who we are, and we can also give them the opportunity to express who they are so that we can actually create that emotional bond that actually makes sense for continuing to interact, right? As we start to open up and bond more on that emotional level, we're going to get less of this like, hey, why are we still talking? Like, maybe we should just only talk once a week or once a month or once every 3 months or something like that. You're going to get a lot less of that because as the two of you actually create more of a personal connection, there's going to be a lot more bonding, okay? So that's really what we want to do when it comes to focusing on avoiding false intimacy. Again, these kinds of conversations can be helpful. They can be good to have, but we don't want to base our entire conversation just on false intimacy. We want to actually bring ourselves personally, our own experiences, our own emotions, our own thoughts, our own opinions, etc., in a personal sort of way to the conversation. We also want to encourage our partner to do the same as well too. And if you can do this, then you can create real, lasting intimacy. Anyway, thank you so much. Please take care, and I'll talk to you next time.